10 huge Coronation Street spoilers for next week. Next week on Coronation Street, things are heating up. From August 26th to 30th, Leanne's loyalty to the Institute might just spark a clash with Amy and Tracy. Meanwhile, Joel's menacing presence looms larger, and Beth faces blackmail from Kit. Don't miss out. Here's our full guide to 10 huge moments coming up. If you want more spoilers and updates, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's dive in and explore the 10 big moments coming your way. 1. Leanne makes a concerning discovery. Rowan informs Leanne about the latest developments at the Institute, including the news that Amy is rethinking her decision not to invest in the resource center. He encourages Leanne to persuade Nick to reconsider his stance as well. Later, during Amy's upload session, she confides in Rowan, but Leanne becomes worried when she notices that Rowan is recording the conversation. 2. Amy sees another side to the Institute. Amy speaks to Ken about releasing her inheritance money so she can invest in the Institute. She then attends her malware session, where other members of the group bombard her with cruel insults while she's blindfolded. Amy gets upset over the barrage of abuse and pulls off her blindfold. Having been through this experience herself, Leanne urges Amy not to pull out now as it'll all be worth it. Sticking to her guns, Amy rushes out and confides in Tracy about her ordeal. Tracy then teams up with Nick and they storm down to the Chariot Square Hotel, determined to bring Rowan down once and for all. 3. Leanne struggles with her loyalties. Tracy warns that she's approaching the Weatherfield Gazette with the damning story of how the Institute treated Amy. Rowan urges Leanne to talk Amy round. He reminds Leanne that she's now part of the group's senior management, so her loyalties need to be with the Institute rather than Amy. 4. Beth discovers Kit's secret. Beth spots Sid continuing to sell their knockoff t-shirts at the Weatherfield precinct. She's furious that he's plowing ahead with the illegal side hustle while cutting her out of the profits. When Kit arrives on the scene and is clearly involved in the scam, Beth is shocked to realize that he's a corrupt copper. 5. Kit tries to bully Beth out of town. Kit finds out that Beth knows his secret, so he hands her some hush money. He then turns nastier, threatening to end Craig's career unless Beth leaves Weatherfield by the end of the week. Kit's ultimatum comes just as Kirk declares his love for Beth. Kirk presents Beth with Peanut the dog, who's wearing a neckerchief which reads, "Marry me?" Concerned by Kit's blackmail, will Beth have to turn Kirk down? 6. Joel and Lauren come face to face again. DS Swain is still clinging to the hope of finally nailing Joel for his crimes. She's got that gut feeling, the one that tells her she's close to cracking the case. But reality keeps creeping in. Her superior, D.I. Costello, isn't so convinced. He's been around long enough to know that hunches aren't enough in their line of work. Costello reminds Swain that without solid evidence, all they've got is suspicion, and that won't hold up. It's a bitter pill for Swain to swallow, but she knows deep down that he's right. The weight of this realization hits Swain hard. She's been pushing so hard, determined to get justice, and now she's faced with the fact that she just doesn't have what she needs to make it stick. Reluctantly, she has to let Joel go. She can't help but feel frustrated and defeated as she tells him he's free to leave. It's like all the progress she thought she was making just slipped through her fingers. Joel, of course, leaves with that smug look that makes Swain's blood boil, knowing he's dodged another bullet. Meanwhile, Lauren's dealing with her own worries. She heads to the hospital to check on Frankie, trying to be a good friend and support him through whatever he's dealing with, but her visit takes a dark turn. Joel shows up out of nowhere, and before Lauren knows it, she's cornered by him. The tension spikes immediately. Joel's presence is enough to make anyone uneasy, especially after what's been happening. Lauren's heart races as she tries to figure out how to handle the situation, knowing Joel's not the kind of guy you want to be alone with. This moment leaves Lauren shaken. She thought she was just visiting a friend, but now she's caught in something far more dangerous. She's left wondering what Joel's really up to and what this means for everyone involved. It's clear that even though Swain had to let him go, Joel's far from out of the picture, and the threat he poses is only getting bigger. 7. Dylan overhears more bad news. Dylan is just trying to have a quiet moment at the cafe, but his peace is shattered when Mason walks in with Betsy. Mason, never one to miss a chance to brag, casually drops that he's saving up to rent a flat nearby. This news hits Dylan like a ton of bricks. The thought of having Mason, his longtime nemesis, living just around the corner is enough to make him feel trapped. Dylan's mind races as he tries to imagine what his life would be like with Mason constantly around, and the idea leaves him feeling uneasy. As Dylan sits there, his worry starts to grow. Mason has always been a thorn in his side, and now it seems like there's no escape. The cafe, which used to be a place where Dylan could relax, now feels more like a battleground. He can't help but feel like Mason's presence is closing in on him, making his world smaller with every passing moment. The thought of Mason sticking around for the long haul is more than just annoying, it's downright suffocating. Meanwhile, Betsy is playing her own game. She knows exactly how to get Mason's attention, and she uses it to her advantage. With a sweet smile, she suggests that Mason skip his shift at Speed Dahl so they can spend more time together at her place while her mum is out. It's clear that Betsy has a plan, and she's not shy about bending the rules to get what she wants. Mason, never one to pass up an opportunity, is more than happy to go along with it, even if it means blowing off work. For Dylan, this whole situation is like watching a bad movie that he can't turn off. He sees how easily Mason is led astray and wonders what it'll mean for the people around him. The idea of Mason getting even more entangled in his life is unsettling. Dylan can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning of a whole new set of problems, and it leaves him on edge, knowing that things are about to get a lot more complicated. Wait, Betsy reacts badly to rejection. Betsy quickly loses interest in Mason when he shows zero enthusiasm about spending more time together. It's a sharp turn, but Betsy isn't one to dwell on things that aren't working out. Instead, she shifts her focus to Dylan, hoping for a better response. For Dylan, though, this isn't exactly a welcome change. He's already had enough trouble with Mason, and the thought of Mason assuming he's now with Betsy is enough to make him anxious. Dylan knows all too well how quickly things can escalate, especially when Mason's involved. Betsy, never one to shy away from stirring the pot, decides to make her move. She kisses Dylan right in front of Mason, fully aware of the storm it might kick up. But then, just as quickly, she switches gears and admits to Mason that she was only trying to make him jealous. It's a bold move, and it leaves everyone involved feeling a bit off balance. Mason, however, isn't fazed. He flat out tells Betsy that he's still not interested, brushing off her attempts to get under his skin. But Betsy isn't one to let things go that easily. She's got one more trick up her sleeve and sets her sights on revenge. While working at Speed Dahl, she swipes a customer's purse and slyly plants it in Mason's jacket. When the customer realizes their purse is missing, chaos erupts. Mason is caught off guard when he finds the purse in his jacket and quickly realizes he's been set up. It's a classic Betsy move, leaving him to wonder just how far she'll go to get back at him. Now, the big question is whether Betsy's plan will actually work. She's clearly hoping to rattle Mason and maybe even get him into some trouble, but there's always a risk when you play with fire. Mason's smart enough to figure out what's going on, but how he'll react is anyone's guess. Betsy's revenge might backfire, or it might just hit the mark, but either way it's bound to cause some serious drama. 9. Ryan spots something suspicious. Kit's all set to move out of the Rovers and into a new place at the Red Bank development. It's a fresh start for him, but Jenny, always quick to connect the dots, realizes that the flat he's moving into is the very one Daisy and Daniel were planning to buy before their breakup. The memories of what could have been are still fresh, and the whole situation brings a bittersweet feeling. Jenny can't help but think about how things have changed and how different everything might have been if Daisy and Daniel had stayed together. When Daisy hears about Kit's move, it clearly stirs something up. The mention of Daniel's name makes her visibly uncomfortable, a reaction that doesn't slip past Ryan. He notices how Daisy's mood shifts at the mere mention of Daniel, and it gets him wondering what's really going on in her head. Ryan's seen this kind of thing before, and he knows that unresolved feelings can be a tricky thing to deal with, especially when you're trying to move on. As Kit moves forward with his plans, the tension between Daisy and her past with Daniel hangs in the air. It's clear that Daisy isn't as over things as she might want everyone to believe. Ryan's keen eye picks up on it, and it leaves him thinking that there's more to this story than Daisy's letting on. The past has a funny way of creeping back in, and it looks like Daisy's going to have to confront it sooner or later. 10. Jack's day in court gets closer. Jack's anxiety is building as the day of his plea hearing looms closer. He's just a teenager, but the weight of what's coming feels enormous. The fire at Stefan's office was a mistake that spiraled out of control, and now Jack's facing the harsh reality that his actions have serious consequences. Each passing day brings him closer to the courtroom, and the fear of what might happen is taking a toll on him. He can't help but imagine the worst-case scenarios, playing them over and over in his mind. The thought of standing in front of a judge, owning up to what he did, is terrifying. Jack knows there's a real chance he could be hit with a tough punishment, and the uncertainty of it all is making him feel like he's stuck in a nightmare he can't wake up from. The pressure is immense, and it's clear that Jack's struggling to keep it together as the hearing approaches. All Jack can do now is brace himself for what's to come. He's trying to stay strong, but the fear is hard to shake. The reality of facing the music is setting in, and Jack knows that whatever happens, it's going to change everything. He's on the brink of a moment that could define his future, and the fear of the unknown is almost too much to bear. And that's what's coming up next week on Coronation Street. From unexpected confrontations to hidden agendas and rising tensions, Weatherfield is set for some major drama. If you don't want to miss any of the twists and turns, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on. We'll be keeping you updated with all the latest spoilers, insights, and behind-the-scenes looks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more Coronation Street scoops.